Today's guest is Ron Nicholson. He is the executive director at Because I Can Incorporated, which is a educational STEM nonprofit.
There is no one else in creation like you. There's nobody like you. And what you've come to do and what you have to offer is like no other.
Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Again, happy to be here. I founded a nonprofit, started about 10 years ago. Went to high school in Washington, D.C., graduated from Blue High School in Southeast Washington. Went to college in North Carolina, went to North Carolina State University. Finished college and came back up here to work. Worked at First American Bank, which is now Bank of America, as the first opportunity for me to get in the IT field. And then that went on to work at Georgetown University, where I spent 35 years in IT at Georgetown.
Wow, amazing. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your career field?
My journey. Well, in high school, I was 11th grade. I wanted to go into electrical engineering, and I had a pretty decent GPA. And I applied for this internship at MIT, which I knew I was going to get, and I was rejected. So because I was rejected, I said, as a senior, I said, I'm going to go to computer science, study computers. So I started my journey as computers being my second choice. I'm glad I made the choice. This field, my career, I was fortunate enough to be in academia at Georgetown University and get to learn a lot of different tools and having a lot of different positions. So from soup to nuts, I've done from application development, from networking, system administration, system engineering. I ran their email system for 7 years. And then we bought virtualization at Georgetown in 2008. So got to play around with a lot of different technologies.
Okay. So you mentioned that you didn't get into MIT. So would you say that that was the driving force for you to change career fields?
I think, it was, the rejection was tough for me to handle, but it was some of the first adversity I reached where I didn't get what I thought I wanted. But for me, I just made a change, switched to computer science. It was kind of still years ago, not new, but it was different, and it worked out for me.
Okay. All right. So can you dive a little bit more into where you studied and what exactly you studied while you were in school?
Well, computer science, which is, it requires a certain level of math and a lot of CS courses, and of course there's some electives, but really a deep dive into the theoretical aspects of computer science, with not a lot of hands-on applications and stuff to learn. I didn't have an internship, but I was fortunate enough to have a summer job where I worked for the government doing some IT work, and so that was good for me.
Okay, very nice. Are there any courses or certifications you would recommend for anybody trying to get started in this career field?
So now there's certifications all over the place. And it really depends on your interest and what you want to study. It's very broad. IT is very broad. And so from either cyber to software engineering, software development, like if you want to get certain Python, or networking essentials, security plus, networking plus, all those based on what you think you might want to get into and what you like is important. Not just getting into it because it's popular, that you actually like it. Because if you don't like it, you're not going to continue to pursue it. At some point in time, look into that career field and see if you're going to see if you like it. Yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah.
So would you say that it's better for this specific career field? Would you say that there's more advantages to maybe like self-teach or actually go to like an institution to learn?
Ooh, good question. The trend is, and I wouldn't ever tell anyone not to go to college. I would never, ever say that. But we're seeing in this industry, a lot of students are getting opportunities to get decent work, good jobs by having skill sets at the high school level. Learning cloud computing, learning some AI stuff, right? Learning networking. A lot of these things are free, right? The AI is available. It doesn't cost to become a prompt engineer, playing around with AI. It doesn't cost anything for you to set up an instance in AWS and start playing with cloud technology. So a lot of these things, as a self-starter, are available for you at no cost.
Okay. All right. What would you say has been more valuable, your job experience or your education?
My job experience.
Okay.
Because education is great. I've passed the certification. I was a Microsoft certified engineer. I've been a VMware certified engineer. Microsoft MCSE, at that time you had to pass 7 exams. But what you pass on an exam and with the real world, it gives you some idea of how things operate, but the real world is a lot different. I'll give you an example. Like, one of the things they recommend is always change the administrator password. Okay, so I was going to change the administrator password, and they said, well, thank you, you're about to break about 8 systems that require the administrator password. Don't ever change it. Well, the certifications exam said change the administrator password. So the real world experience is a lot different than when you go through the search and what you think you know, when you got to get your hands on and get the practical experience to really become, that's the value. It's very valuable.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say that what would you say are the pros and cons of this career field?
Pros, it can be lucrative. There's pocketbook implications. People that usually in this field make decent money. They have the ability to be mobile in some cases where you work. Looked at when COVID hit, the pandemic, folks in IT went virtual and a lot of them weren't impacted as much. So the ability to work remote. And if you like the challenges of change, this field changes a lot. So what you knew 5 years ago may not be relevant 5 years from now. No one was talking about ChatGPT 7 years ago, right? But now you can't, it's everywhere, right? AI is integrated in everything you do. Cons, based on your field, it can be stressful to some extent, and it could maybe disrupt your life. Like if you a security person and you've got hacked, or there's a new vulnerability out, you might not come home that night. You might be spending the night fixing a bug. So I've been there, done that. So, so having the flexibility of like maybe not having a 9-to-5 position in this field. It may not be a 9-to-5, but if you love it, that's okay.
Okay. So do you think it's more difficult to create a good work-life balance?
It can be. You have to kind of look at your position, look at the role you're playing, and then determine how to make sure you have to have that balance. But how can I incorporate balance? Because really, you can really get just kind of overwhelmed at some point, and gotta be careful with burnout if you just totally disindulge into the work. So for me, I used to play a little basketball, coach a little basketball, and I used to work out a lot. So I started teaching cycling aerobics. So I started teaching spinning classes. So that was my out. So when I go to class for an hour, I don't think about any IT problem, any of that stuff. I'm totally zoned out.
That's good. So you forced that issue
I
of
kind of came
having
across
some.
it. Yeah, it was fortunate for me. Yeah.
Good, very good. What skills do you think are most valuable getting into IT and cybersecurity?
Um, well, being able to accept change. So the things that you know today may change tomorrow. The self-starter, kind of being a person that will sit down and have patience
Mm.
to, if things don't work, to figure out the issues and solutions, because it may not be a 1 night, 2 week, 3 week, 1 month issue. Trust me. I think those are key. Critical thinking, logical analysis, problem solving. If you like solving problems, and that field has those for you. So those are valuable things to need.
What do you think has been your biggest success factor? Like, what's contributed most to your success?
For me, it was probably the openness that I didn't wear like some of the failures on my sleeves, so that I used to tell folks that work for me, some of your mistakes are going to make you a better person at that role.
Mm.
And so I've blown up a couple systems, not on purpose, but it made me better as an engineer. And so I think that would say that's one of the things that has helped me be successful, is that I'm not afraid to make the mistakes, knowing that I try not to make them. I definitely try to make the same mistake over more than once. That might get you fired. But learn from those mistakes to become better. And I think that's helped me in my career.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're in a time right now where AI is really taking off, right? With not a lot of guidelines or restrictions, kind of like no cap on where it's going. Where do you see, I guess, that going in the future, and just like IT in general? Like, where do you see that?
That's a very good question. I've been doing this for a long time. I've never seen a technology in probably my lifetime that's taken off so quickly. It's emerging everywhere. It's integrated everywhere without regulatory bodies over it. And that kind of scares me a little bit. But I understand the importance of leveraging yourself to take advantage of it. It's not going anywhere. So, as a self-starter, start playing around with the tools. A lot of tools are free. And start understanding the technology. Put those tools on your resume. If you're playing with those tools, put that tool there, and you're able to actually prompt properly, put prompt engineering on your resume. That's free. These tools are free and access is free. But AI, I think the sky is the limit. I don't know where it's going to end up, but I will say the trend is that if you're not exposed to AI or not understanding it in this field, it's going to be challenging for you.
Okay. Do you think that it's more helpful or more harmful to this industry right now?
I think the harm is that no one's keeping track of how fast it's moving to keep it under some type of control, right? And then developers are all over the place developing their AI tools, from as far west as the far east and all over, South, North America, whatever. Tools are coming out left and right. And who can tell me what is a safe tool to use? What body can I go to and say, you have the list of tools that are adopted, accepted, and passed some regulation, so I feel safe? That doesn't exist.
Right.
So it's the Wild Wild West. So hopefully you get knowledge, you do a little research before you start using a tool to know who manufactured it, who developed it, where was it developed, so you're not exposed. Because we heard of some AI scams, some things that are done, but let me not minimize the great things that are happening. look at with breast cancer awareness. There's imaging by AI that's detecting diseases way before the eye doctors can do it. I
Wow.
was talking about nurses, which is an industry that experiences a lot of burnout. Well, in New Orleans, they have robotics that bring prescriptions to the nurses, so they don't have to walk down the hall to get the prescription. Robots come using AI to bring the medication to the nurses. So and I can go on and on about some of the great things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to leverage it, and we got to marry the two for it to make sense for us.
Find the balance. Gotcha. Okay. Are there any professional associations that you're a part of at this time?
Gosh, I was part of some Black engineers, the computer science groups. Now I'm on Code. A member of Code.org Advocacy Coalition Committee. Hard to say. I wish I had an acronym. And it looks at computer science in all 50 states. To look at computer science over in the country, see the trends, see advocating for computer science, and cultivating students who are interested in this industry, in this field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Are there any manuals or pieces of literature that you would recommend to anybody just getting started?
Everything's online now.
Yeah.
And they can always store it in one of those AI tools and get it for you as well. But that's a great question. I think you should research what you think your interest is. And also, I call it my SWOT analysis. If you know what a SWOT analysis is, look that up, SWOT, put it in chat. And look at where the opportunities are and what makes sense for what you like. And try to get your look what your peers are doing. We talked about the story, what's happening at Thomas Jefferson High School in Northern Virginia, where those students in high school have CSAP classes that are teaching them AI, machine learning, AI deep learning, and their capstone project is to develop an AI tool. And two of those high school students received $15,000 grants each to develop an AI tool to predict deer collisions in rural areas. That's your competition. So if anything I just said you know nothing about,
you need to get on it.
That's part of your SWOT analysis. You need to kind of figure some things out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when you were still learning and growing, what was, I guess, the most helpful thing that you were learning from?
Mentors.
Okay.
Having mentors that could say, this is probably where you should go. I will help you, cultivate you in this area that you're interested in. Finding if other organizations like ours that mentor or others there's several out here that will help you along your journey. That's really, really important. That helped me. Wasn't as many then, but there are a lot now that will help you out and assist you with trying to just figure out where you want to go in this career, in this field. Yeah.
Okay. What are your next career steps?
I've got a foundation. So the foundation was founded by 4 college roommates. We were all either electrical engineers or computer scientists. We founded it because we all felt the same during retirement. There wasn't a lot of people that looked like us coming through the door. And now running a nonprofit and really doing the research, I understand the inequities and disparities when it comes to the area of STEM, where 66% white male dominated, 29% women, 9% African American, 7% Hispanic. So we want to change those numbers. We want to give other folks opportunities for these lucrative jobs and just for these careers. So anything we do to help that out, that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, so serving your community is your passion at this time?
Yeah, I mean, it started from when I coached basketball. I coached basketball all over through the area, from middle school, elementary, and I did some travel, so AAU coaching as well. And that helped me understand the importance of mentoring and coaching students from players from all over the area. But also now I just took that same passion into technology.
Beautiful. What advice would you give yourself 15 years ago?
Wow. That's a very good question. I think I probably I probably wouldn't have been so dedicated
Oh, really?
to my
Interesting.
organization. I did. I gave them a lot.
Mm.
And so I sacrificed some things for them, for the organization that I work for.
Mm.
Probably a little bit beyond the call of duty. I probably put more in than I received at the end. So I would probably say I would probably been a little bit more selfish. Like my son's in IT. He's got a career in IT now. He says, Dad, I'm not staying anywhere 35 years. You can forget that. That's not happening. I give him 5, 10 years, and I'm going to the next. They're more open to change. I've stayed there, and that's, I guess, the generation I grew up in, where it was like, get this job, it's stable, you stay there. I think I would have looked back and said, well, play around with other places, right? Looking back now. I mean, it worked out for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I look back, I would have probably been more open to, not afraid to go from one place to another place, to see the differences.
Okay.
I stayed in academia. It worked for me. I loved it. Made some great connections, met some great people, but I probably would have moved around a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are platforms like Functional Training Zone important to the youth?
You guys are getting the message out. You allow me to get my messaging out, and you're supporting students to give them this career guidance and opportunities to learn and see what's out here in this world, and some of the things that are in a real talk. We talked about how I think my ideas of cybersecurity. I think the field is oversaturated to some extent. It reminds me of the MCSEs back in the 90s, where everyone had an MCSE certification, but they really didn't know it. And then it was easier. It made the employers easier to pick and choose who they want to select, because there were so many folks that were in the MCSEs. I see something similar with cybersecurity. So many folks are driven towards cyber that there's so many things you need to know before you just say, I want to be a cybersecurity, whatever role you want to be a cyber. And so there's other stuff you need that's all under the IT umbrella that you need, but I think sometimes it's undersold because you just kept this lens of cyber. And I want to make sure that folks understand that don't chase because you think it's lucrative. Chase it because you like it. You got a passion for it. Because you have a passion for it, nobody can stop you. You'll get up at 2 a.m. and say, I've just figured out that problem. Maybe get up on that. Yeah, you'll get up and fix it. Yeah.
So would you say that it's more beneficial to, I guess, kind of like start from the ground up and like jump around to different parts of the IT?
Well, I think you need a foundation, right? So if you're in cyber, you definitely want to know, you really need to understand networking. How does networks work? I mean, because security just protects my house. How are people getting in? What doors, what windows, what ceiling, how are they getting in? So you understand where the openings are. So cyber, and there's so many levels of cybersecurity. I mean, different aspects of cybersecurity, or security in general. But if you understand basic networking, I connect to a network. How's that happening? How do I get an IP address? How does that happen? How does 2 devices connect to each other? How does it connect across town? How does it connect in another country? What's happening? How does it translate, convert names to numbers? We speak www.bet.com. The servers speak IP addresses. How did that translation happen? Now you start really, and that's free. You go out there and be a self-starter and get some basic networking understanding under your belt, and that's important.
Thank you for sharing. How can others connect with your organization?
So we are Because I Can, and it's www.becauseIcan.net. It's spelled BC, not BE, BCAUSEICAN. Also at Because I Can DMV. All our social media platforms are there. We do offer some internships. We have some interns working right now in high school. One from High Point, one from Oxon Hill, and we got a student from Prince George Community College, a freshman, and they are putting together our Amazon Cloud class, AWS Cloud class for the summer, 8 sessions, free to high school students, first come, first serve enroll, and they're going to be the TAs. They're setting up the environment, they're learning all that cloud technology and terminology, And we want to try to advocate, cultivate more students to be able to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do for your community, and thank you for talking with me today.
You're more than welcome.
What would you recommend, like as a good beginner job in IT?
A good beginner job in IT normally starts with a help desk position. Normally folks get an entry level into IT working the help desk. So they get a little bit more selective, but help desk is normally a great starting point in IT industry. Help desk. Good question.
My question is, like, and this is like a very long career path that you have to go through in IT. How do you work through like downfalls, like times you want to quit, or like hardships, stuff like that?
Wow. I think a couple of things. One, you always be true to yourself. And so there's folks that have changed positions within IT because they thought they were like this certain position and it didn't turn out well for them. And so they course corrected. And so always be true to yourself because you're not going to do you a good service or that organization or employer if you're not true to yourself. So it can be a pendulum. But I think that's the first thing is understand is it satisfying? Do you have that passion in your heart to go there every day? If you start losing any of those things, start looking around at other opportunities. IT is very broad. It's a lot of different positions. It's a large sector that you can maybe change if you feel that way.
Okay.
Good question.
All right. My question. At the beginning of the podcast, I heard that you got declined from your internship, like even when you knew you had it. Like, is it something you think like we could do, or you thought you could do that you were like actually secured?
No, I was arrogant. That's all. I had a 3.8 grade point average. I played basketball. I thought I looked pretty good. So I was arrogant. That's all. That rejection letter brought me down from cloud to 9, whatever it was, and says, you're not all that, the bag of chips. And that, for me, that was a motivator. So I changed and it worked out well for me. So I guess when I say adversity brings character. So when things don't work out, sometimes it brings the best out of you. So I use that, I bring it up. Although I heard it when I saw that, open that letter up, I can believe it. That was the best thing for me.
Did you ever think that you would get this far, like in this job? Like, did you just decide, like, this is what I want to do, but you didn't think that you would get this far?
As far as my career in IT or running a nonprofit?
Your career in IT.
No, I just kind of navigated it, right? So I started off in one position, I liked it, then I got an opportunity to get another position like Quincy mentioned. There was a mentor that took me over to her team. I didn't know the work, but she said, I saw something in you that I want to give you an opportunity. So I had a mentor that brought me over to her team doing other stuff, and it just took off from there. So I didn't envision it. No, I didn't, but it worked out well for me.
Okay.
What was your favorite moment, like memory of your career?
My favorite moment was, I don't know if it's a favorite, but I'll say it. There was a payroll bug. We had a payroll update, and it had a bug in it. And it was chopping off zeros off our balance every day. And we were told that you cannot leave, put you in a hotel, you can't leave that night until this problem is fixed. So some people were like bugging, they were going crazy. Oh my God, we're gonna get fired, blah, blah, blah. And I had restored a backup. And they found the problem. And because I kept that backup, it kind of saved the day. Now, I didn't know when I say save the backup, it was gonna do it, it's a kind of scary moment, but it's my favorite moment, but it worked out well. So, yeah.
Okay. You said that you think for in the career path for IT, your job experience is somewhat more important than your education. So can you like talk us through how you were able to obtain that job experience, and then like just how you navigated like going from your entry level to becoming more like, you know?
Um, I would kind of see where I wanted to, what I wanted to. Well, even when I had a job in IT, I started some software development, some we just call it programming, coding. I wanted to get into more the engineering, system administration stuff. I wanted that Microsoft certification. So what I did is I had a couple old computers. I got someone that gave me an old router, and I built my own home network. And I just went through the first exam and see what it would take. So I was getting experience, not from a book, but I had my own test system at my house. And then when it came to the exam, then when it came to actually doing it, I had some experience doing it. I had put my hands on it. Now everything's online and virtual. But you can do that same thing I did with getting old computers and a router with getting an AWS account now. All you need is a credit card, and it's free. Well, make sure you don't, they have your limits to how much you can use before they cost you. But you can start getting some of your stuff free now to learn and get hands-on experience. And so the book is great, but putting your hands on it, nothing like it.
Okay. So my question is, you were talking about the internship program in the summertime. So I was wondering, will there be any engineering aspects that will be taught in this internship as far as like building computers and things like that?
Well, there is some computer engineering involved because you're gonna learn how to set up an EC2 instance. If you know what virtual instances are, if you're in this field, you need to understand what that means. So EC2, what it means, that's the Amazon terminology. There's 3 big cloud providers. There's AWS, Amazon Web Services, Amazon. There's Microsoft, Azure, and there's Google, GCP, Google Cloud Platform. 90+% of the work is done in the cloud. So if I'm in the industry and 90% of the folks are in that place, I need to learn that place, right? So the computer engineering we're gonna teach is how to engineer within Amazon's Web Service, which has about 65 to 70% of the market across the globe. So once you learn one, it's just the apples. Microsoft says this, GCP says that, Amazon says that, but you have an understanding of one, it translates to all the other ones.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, would you say learning technology is easier now than back then, or the other way around?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I couldn't Google anything.
Yeah.
I couldn't put anything in chat. I had to find a book, find someone, call someone, go to a library, check out a book. Oh my goodness. I mean, use paper, walk.
Yeah.
No comparison. Yeah, it's a lot easier now. At least the resources are available. I don't know if it's easier, it's more readily available, the resources to assist you now. Yeah.
Can you come back to me?
You're gonna think about your question? Okay. Yes. Come back to you, okay.
Yeah, so what would you say is the most hardest thing while working for IT?
What's the hardest thing?
Yeah.
Being patient. Because it may not work the first time. It may not work the second time. You might go to bed and it's not working. 2 weeks from now, it may not be working. You got patience. So that's hard to be patient. I call it slow cook. It's not microwave. You got to slow cook it to get really good at it. And so patience probably is some of the hardest things. Be patient. And give you a chance time to learn it and so that it sticks, right? So I think that's one of the hardest things, being patient.
All right, thank you.
So near the beginning, you mentioned a few important skills like cloud computing and networking. What would you say are some skills that you learned that weren't specifically, or that didn't specifically come from a book, course, or like a certification?
Social engineering. That means networking. Learn how to network. You might have somebody that he is a AI guru. Get up on, hey, how do you become an AI guru? Somebody might be a networking expert. Hey, how'd you become a network expert? They talked about other FTZ, other folks that do work, they're coaching and mentoring and answering and giving you opportunities. Social engineering, which is just networking, is very important. Has nothing to do with the actual sector itself. Just builds up the resources and folks that you can assist you in your journey. So social engineering has nothing to do with a book. I think that's one thing I would recommend for everyone.
What's some specific tech skills that you use on like a consistent basis to like make your work easier, or that you use constantly?
Consistently, probably. You guys don't do it as much as I do. I've lived in email because most of us correspond in email. So I've really been able to craft emails and navigate email and then navigate all the resources around it. And also for collaboration. But I understand that being flexible, I use that. And because I had a generation behind me that didn't like email, we used Slack. So Slack is a way that folks get real-time communications on their phones. So I went ahead and used Slack, and a lot of my engineers and instructors, they do work on Slack now. So I got Slack channels for them. I still do traditional email. So those are probably the two tools I use the most for my business every day. She's ready? Uh-oh, I'm gonna get a hard question.
Okay. Are there any other opportunities that your organization offers besides the internships?
Right now, no. But no, I take that back. If you know Python or Scratch coding, if you know those languages, we're always looking for instructors. So if you know Python or Scratch, look at on our website, it says contact us now. We're always looking for instructors to teach those classes. We teach Scratch coding from grades K through 5. That's the block-based coding. And then we teach Python starting at 5th grade on Code HS. So if any of those things, you're close to knowing those, or familiar with those coding languages, and you want a job, go to contact on our website, and we can kind of talk. Send your resume.
What's the most important? What's the most important advice you ever received?
Probably was to find. I had a lot of advice. Some of it was good, some was bad. Probably be true to myself. Just be true to myself. If you don't like it, say you don't like it. If you like it, because I found out that if I'm not true to myself, it's not gonna last. And I won't go the extra mile for it. And I don't care about the money, right? I hear people like, this field because I want the money. Do it because you have a passion for it. Like, this has Tiger Woods, the golfer. They're like, you make so much money. Why do you say, I love golf? The money gonna take care of itself. But if I have a passion for it, hopefully I get compensated for it. But be true to myself. I think that's probably the best thing I've ever told me.
Are there any certifications that you would recommend for beginners in the IT field?
I think it depends on what you're studying. Mm-hmm. I think that the basis, if you want to be a developer, you might want to get Python or data structure search or things of that nature, Java or whatever, if you want to be a software developer. If you go into cyber, you might want to get the networking plus, security plus, those certs right there. Really depends on the discipline, but figure out what you think you want to go into. Mm-hmm. I think it does not hurt anyone to get a networking plus cert. And any aspects of IT. Because there's real on some network somewhere doing something. Whether you help desk, application support, security, webmaster, whatever, networking can't hurt you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. My question is, well, I got a question and a follow-up question.
Sure.
So my first
You're
question
the last guy, you
is,
get two, no problem.
what level of education did you stop at? Like what degree?
Bachelor of Science.
Bachelor's,
Yeah.
okay. And at what point in your business did you put what you learned in college into actually like what you're doing?
I think for me, college didn't assist a lot with a little bit of the business part of it, but I wasn't a business major. So for what I'm doing now, other than understanding how the computer science works, helps me out. It practically helped me out, theoretically helped me out when I started my career, but there is nothing that substitutes hands-on experience. So I'm advocating for corporations to give internships to people that look like us. And that's one of my, so since I have a hard time getting corporations to do it, I'm doing it on my own. I don't have the funding, I don't have some of the support, I don't have some of the sponsorship, but interns are your gateways to those employers. So the folks that interns in college, they get the skills. So they just go from, I use my son as an example. He was fortunate. He worked for, he got an internship, he went to Hampton. He got an internship his sophomore year at Leidos, a DoD contractor. He got that intern. Now he was a Google hackathon in high school. He was working Google hackathons in college. He applied at Google, Amazon, all these guys. But a colleague of mine was a hiring manager that had given her a job at Georgetown, reached back to me and gave my son a job at Leidos. He showed he could do the work. They brought him back for his junior year. They still gave him a harder project. I said, they're gonna hire you before you go back your senior year because they invested too much. And he had a job offer by his senior year. He was 1 out of 15. He was the only African-American male. So if I can't get the interns to corps, they won't give me the demographics. I gotta do it on my own. So that's why I give students, high school students, these valuable skills with cloud, AI, all these opportunities, because if they don't get it, we're gonna get it another way. But you brought all that out of me. It's a good question.
Valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree? I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not.
It gets the people going.
It's your boy JR dropping them beats.